You know, we all like to think we're the captains of our own ship, right? That our thoughts are these purely rational, logical things that we come up with all on our own. But what if I told you that your mental slate is never really blank? What if your decisions are being shaped by these tiny, invisible cues all around you long before you're even aware you're making a choice? So let's just ask it straight up. Are your thoughts really your own? Because a whole lot of research is now showing that what we call common sense is actually being nudged and guided by forces we don't even see.
Probably the best way to get a feel for this is to just imagine watching a really good stage mentalist at work. It's the perfect metaphor for this whole idea of psychological priming.
So picture this. A volunteer gets called up on stage. The mentalist says something really casual, like, hey, could you just stand on that little point right there on the rug? It seems totally random, right? But that's the first tiny seed being planted. Then maybe they say something like, okay, this is going to happen in 3 simple steps. And as they say it, you might notice there are 3 little objects on a table next to them, and they're arranged in this very distinct 3-sided shape. More little seeds.
And then, here it comes, the moment of truth. The mentalist tells the volunteer, just clear your mind and picture any simple shape you want. The volunteer is positive they're making a completely free choice. The whole audience is leaning in.
And they blurt out, a triangle. The crowd goes wild. But here's the thing. It's not magic. It's psychology. The number 3, those triangular objects, the point on the rug, they all work together to activate the idea of a triangle in the volunteer's subconscious. And that, in a nutshell, is priming. And believe me, it works far beyond the stage.
So, how does this invisible influence actually pull the levers inside our own heads? Well, let's take a quick peek under the hood at your brain's amazing, high-speed, automatic background processor.
So here's the core idea. Priming is basically when being exposed to one thing, a word, a picture, even a sound, influences how you react to the next thing. And the really critical part is that it all happens automatically, totally beneath the surface of your conscious mind.
The famous psychologist Daniel Kahneman called this our System 1 thinking. It's that fast, gut-feeling part of your brain that's always on, making these super quick connections. The thing is, we don't choose to be primed. Our brains are just wired for this kind of shortcut. It's efficient.
Want to feel this for yourself? Let's do a super quick experiment right now. I just want you to say the word yellow in your head 5 times, pretty fast. Okay, you ready? Go. Yellow, 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 yellow.
Got it? All right, don't think too hard about it. Just immediately name a common tropical fruit. What's the very first one that pops into your head?
Did you think of a banana? If you did, you just felt priming in action. That word yellow created a really strong automatic link in your brain. Now just imagine that same kind of instant, invisible steering happening when you're deciding who to trust or what you're about to buy. Okay, so that was a fun little party trick, but some really groundbreaking research has proven that this is way more than that. Priming can cause real, measurable changes in our actual behavior. So let's check out some proof from the lab. This is a famous experiment by a researcher named John Bargh. He had people do a simple word puzzle. Now, one group, without knowing it, got sentences full of words we associate with old age. You know, words like Florida, bingo, slow. The other group just got neutral words.
And here's the wild part. After the test, the researchers secretly timed how long it took people to walk down the hall to the elevator. And the group that was primed with all those elderly words, they walked away significantly more slowly. I mean, look at the difference in these bars. It's not a small effect. Their minds were nudged and their bodies just followed along.
And it's not just about words. This study uncovered a deep, deep connection between physical feelings and social judgments. People were asked to briefly hold either a warm coffee or an iced coffee, and then they had to rate a total stranger. The folks holding the warm cup literally rated the stranger as having a warmer personality, more trustworthy, more generous. That physical warmth just transferred right over to social warmth. Isn't that incredible?
And it keeps going. Take the money priming effect. Researchers found that just being exposed to images of money, even fake monopoly money, made people less likely to help someone out and more likely to want to work all by themselves. So the big takeaway from all this research is pretty clear. Priming isn't just a simple word game. It can change your physical behavior, your social judgments, and maybe even your moral compass.
Okay, so if these little nudges are so powerful in a sterile lab, just imagine what happens when priming is used out in the real world on purpose. Let's look at how this stuff shows up in marketing, in the media, and yeah, even on the apps on your phone.
Take this classic study done in a supermarket. On days when they played French music in the background, people bought way more French wine.
And on days when they played German music, you guessed it, German wine sales shot up. These little environmental cues are so powerful because they fly completely under our radar. And here's the best part. When the shoppers were asked about it, they all insisted the music had absolutely zero influence on their choice. You see this exact same tactic in media headlines every single day. An editor isn't just picking words to describe something, they're choosing the emotion they want you to feel before you even start reading. Words like crisis or outrage prime you for fear and anxiety, while words like breakthrough or triumph prime you for hope. It's basically setting your emotional starting point before you've read a single sentence of the story.
And maybe the most sophisticated example is on the streaming services we all use. Think about it. You sit down, you think, you know what, I'm going to watch a comedy tonight. But then you open the app and bam, you're hit with this giant dark banner for a gritty thriller with an intense trailer that starts playing automatically. All of a sudden, your plan is just gone. Now you feel like watching something serious. Your choice was just expertly steered by a very carefully designed digital environment.
So what does all this mean for us? I mean, are we all just puppets being nudged around all day? Well, no, not at all. Because awareness is half the battle. You can absolutely go from being a passive target of these cues to being an active, aware observer. Here's a super simple 3-step toolkit you can use. First, just try to notice the nudge. Acknowledge the German music, the angry headline, that intense banner on your screen. Second, create a pause, just a tiny beat of delay between that cue and your action. And in that little pause, ask why. Why do I suddenly want to grab the French wine? Is this my choice, or was it just a suggestion? When you do that, you suddenly become a whole lot harder to influence.
And that really brings us to a final thought to leave you with. We've talked about how priming is all about preparing your next thought before you're even aware of it. So just consider for a moment the subtle, non-obvious things in your own environment right now. The color of the room, the sound of the air conditioner, the last show you watched. What unseen influence out there is already, right now, preparing your very first thought for tomorrow?